How's it going? I'm Anthony, and these are stories of my life. For those of you just joining us for the first time, these videos are a cognitive therapy tool for me. I've taken some head injuries over the years, my memory's been failing me, and the doctors have suggested that I make these videos to preserve the memories I still have, as well as inspire some of you all who are involved in these events to provide me with details I may have lost or otherwise remind me of events I've completely forgotten, in which case then I can either remake an old video for you with the new details or make a whole new video for you and kind of go from there. So I'm sure you get the idea. At any rate, the events of this video do take place in the latter half of 1992. That would have been the first semester of my sophomore year at Riverside Polytechnic High School in Riverside, California. I was 14 years old, living with my father in a one-bedroom apartment at Quail Creek Apartments off Horace and Arlington Avenue, right down the street from the school. At the beginning of the school year, well, before I get into that, let me say this. I understand that some of the events that I'm going to mention in this video are ridiculous, just stupid, absolutely freaking stupid. You know, I look back on it now and I realize I was a dumbass back then. I was young, impressionable, mentally and emotionally kind of screwed up, so I didn't care about some of these things, and a lot of them I just did for the rush of it. Was really all it was. I didn't think about the aftermath of the consequences and whatever else. So I get it. I absolutely get it. So if you want to throw your criticisms at me, go right ahead, but here it is. So again, at the beginning of the school year, I had made a couple friends I mentioned in a previous video. Corey Watson, Mark Smith. I believe it was Smith. Could be White, but I believe it was Smith. And I became very good friends with them. We got real close real quick because I think we all kind of had a similar background, kind of a rough upbringing. And so I spent a lot of time with them. I would still hang out with Jim and Gabe a lot, but I don't think Jim and Gabe liked Mark because Mark was kind of a bad kid, right? And Corey wasn't exactly the best kid either. I was probably the most morally aligned, if you will, and even that was questionable. But so I don't think they liked hanging out with him. So when I was hanging out with both Corey and Mark, we weren't hanging out with Jim and Gabe. But Corey now had moved into the Poly High School district from what would have been the North High School district. He had actually gone to, I believe it was Central Middle School before he moved over. Whereas all my friends went to Matthew Gage Middle School and went to the school they were supposed to. Now, because of this, Corey still knew a lot of people from North High School. A few guys, but mostly girls. And I didn't complain because, yeah. At any rate, Corey was a good-looking dude, ladies' man, so he knew a lot of girls. And on numerous occasions, Corey and I would go visit some of these people. And I would go with him to a lot of the North High School events, specifically football games. Through Corey, I met a variety of people like Carrie Hauser. She was a cheerleader. Loved her to death. Her and I were good friends for quite a long time. Katie Jaskey. She and I became very good friends for quite a while. Another cheerleader. She's a total sweetheart. We're still in touch to this day. Technically, we're friends on Facebook, but we don't ever really get to talk. Sarah Bias was a good friend of Katie's, and total sweetheart. Another cheerleader. Sabrina Schick, another doll, dancer. I don't think she was a cheerleader. She was on the dance team. And oh God, she could dance, man. When she moved, her body moved like a cup of water. It was crazy. And Jessica Kinsman, another sweetheart. And those, I think, were my favorite that we interacted with on a regular basis. And through Corey and some of the people he knew, I also met another girl by the name of Holly Robinson, and her and I became good friends over time. That took some time, but her and I became good friends and loved her to death as well. And her and I are still semi in touch to this day. Met another girl by the name of Shauna Ramsey, and her and I became close at some point in time down the road, and I'll get more into that on a later video. Beyond that, I can't give you a whole lot more names. I know there was a lot more people, but it's hard for me to remember names. I can see their faces. I just can't think of their names off the top of my head. But one event with them I do want to get into was there was a football game we went to. And when we showed up, there was a girl by the name of Sabrina Schick, who I had just mentioned, was sitting up in the stands. And so Corey was excited to see her. And the reason why is because Sabrina didn't get a lot of time to watch football games because they usually required her to be down on the field. But for whatever reason, in this particular game, she didn't have to do her dance routine. So she was actually able to sit and watch. So we sat with her, and it was me. To my left was Bree, and then Corey. And as the game went on, I noticed this girl sitting about 5, maybe 6 rows in front of me. And she had this dark brown curly hair, kind of like a purple, maybe dark blue, thin sweater on. And I can remember it being kind of breezy, a little cool. I remember her like doing these shiver things. But she was sitting alone, you know. It kind of threw me off that she was alone because she didn't talk to anybody. Didn't talk to anybody. And I couldn't get a look of her face, but you know, you could see somebody from behind and just kind of get a feel for their posture, their self-confidence level, and you could tell she's attractive. Well, I asked Bree about her. I said, you know, who is this girl? And Bree says, well, that's Michelle. Michelle. Michelle who? Michelle Collette. Oh, okay. What's her story? Well, she's in my grade level. I don't know. I don't really know much about her. You know, I don't ever get to hang out with her. She's in trouble a lot. I don't know if her parents are strict or she just gets into trouble or what. But yeah, I don't know too much about her. She's single. Like, what's the deal there? Don't know. Couldn't tell you. Crap. All right. Well, so I wanted to talk to this girl, but I didn't know what she looked like because I couldn't get her to turn around and look at me. So I figured that's the first step. So I started getting a little louder with my talking and doing everything I can to get Corey and Bree to laugh. And finally, I make some kind of joke that actually gets Michelle to laugh. And she looks over her shoulder and was cracking up. She wanted to see who it was that was talking. And that was when I got a look at her. And she's extremely attractive. She's very pretty. And so I was like, okay, so she's an attractive girl. You know, so Bree's like, go talk to her. I'm like, no. I didn't have the guts to go talk to this girl. I had the guts to do some of the stupidest stuff under the sun, but I just didn't have the guts to go talk to this particular girl. Well, finally, come the end of the game, she's leaving, and Bree's like, now's your chance, now or never. At least let her know who you are. So I ran down there and got in front of her and introduced myself. And she kind of had this look like, finally you came and talked to me. So her and I talked for about 5 minutes, and we connected right away. Just everything about my personality connected with hers. She is laughing her ass off at the things I'm saying, and she's cracking me up with some of the things she's saying. Like, you're just totally connected. But I didn't get her number, dumbass as I was, you know. And I don't remember why. I don't know if I was just scared to ask, didn't think to ask, or what. But anyway, she ended up having to leave because her mom was waiting for her, and you know, she went her way, I went mine. I bring that up because it will be significant later. And but yeah, that's how we met. So that was that. Beyond that, Corey and Mark and I, we kind of had our, like, a crew going. And I say that because we would defend a lot of the smaller, socially awkward types that would get picked on. And because of that, they would end up clinging to us. And we were totally okay with that. Figured strength in numbers, right? So we ended up with this crew of people that would all hang out together, whether it be at Canyon Crest Town Center or football games or wherever it might be. We had this crew, right? And Mark ended up coming up with a name for us. He called us ABK, or All Bad Kids. And in that crew, I mean, we did have a couple of taggers, you know, people that would do graffiti and whatever else. And so they would also call us the Artistically Born Criminals, K with a K. I wasn't much into the tagging, but I did get into it. And this is why I said there's some stupid things. But anyway, a lot of these guys would end up spray painting their name on walls and whatever else everywhere. And I would rip them a new asshole about it. You know, how that's stupid. I mean, if the key is to get your name up somewhere, then do it with some panache, some finesse. You know, do something that's going to be difficult for other people to do, that really sets you apart. Because they used to take it as an insult when somebody else would walk by and cross your name out and put their name over you. Well, do your name in a way that nobody can. And so, well, what do you have in mind? I said, get into some of the more difficult to reach places, dangerous places even. And nobody would, you know, but funny as it was, they actually stopped putting their name up because of what I started doing. And so I had to give them an example, right? So they would call me Six, spelled C-I-X. And so that was my tagging name. And as stupid as it was just a little C-I-X, literally cursive. And I wanted something simple that I could get up quickly, because I wasn't going to get a lot of time in some of these places I was going to do this. And to give you an idea of what we're talking about here, I want you to imagine building some of these downtown Riverside buildings. And I had to parkour my ass either up drainage pipes or window to window or some kind of construction method to hang from somewhere to spray paint my name to get down and get the hell out of Dodge, right? And that's what I would do. Sometimes it would require getting up one side of a building and then rappelling down another to get my name up and go. Sometimes it require a grappling hook and a rope to get on a sign that was hanging over a freeway overpass or something like that. Like some seriously ridiculous types of things, you know. There's some big freeway bridges I would dangle down and spray paint on them, where if I fell, we're talking like 50 to 100 foot drop. I mean, some stupid stuff. And yeah, that was me. And I was the only one that had the guts to do this. So it earned a measure of recognition, but it was so stupid. I remember being at a party one time with the whole crew, and there was a ton of people at this place. And Mark, being Mark, just starts bragging about who we are, you know, ABK, and our name would end up in some pretty interesting places. So all these people are like, oh my God, you're ABK, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, Mark, why you gotta tell people, you know how much stuff we're liable for? And then finally Mark says, oh, well, you know, this is my name, this is his name, and this is Six. And oh my God, as soon as my name went out there, everybody and their mom comes running up to me. It's like, you're Six? Oh, Jesus, we've seen your stuff over here or there. How did you do this and that? Like I didn't want my name out. I don't want people to know who the hell I am, you know. And even I remember one guy, stupid, like, oh, let me shake your hand. I'm like, get the fuck away from me, dude. And it was stupid. And somewhere right around there is when I just like, okay, this is retarded. I'm not doing this anymore. And I didn't do it for recognition. For me, it was just the rush of getting it done. You know, just, it was a rush. It was an adrenaline junkie is probably the best way to put it. And yeah, anyway, so I was stupid. But to give you a couple specific stories, another one that was stupid. Corey, Mark, and a couple of the other guys and I were walking towards Tava Lanes, the bowling alley, right there off Arlington and where the train tracks are. And we're walking to it, and we can't get to the bowling alley because there's this long freaking train that's going by. And back then, they didn't have that bridge that went over Arlington that there is now. So you literally had to wait for this stupid-ass train. And so we're walking around waiting for this train to go by, and the train's going slow as hell. And it's just forever long. Somebody gets bored, sees that there's tons of cars on the other side of the train tracks, and gets the brilliant idea to throw some rocks over the train. And yeah, stupid. I may have gotten involved. I don't remember now. I might have thrown one or two. I don't know. But anyway, I just remember thinking it was stupid even at that time, because we're about to walk in this freaking parking lot. And we couldn't exactly turn around and run either, because once we start running, they know who it was. And a couple of people throwing these gigantic rocks, and they messed up a few cars. So now I'm thinking we're screwed, right? But then I get this brilliant idea. So I said, guys, come with me. We got to walk like we're going to the Riverside Plaza. So we start walking to Riverside Plaza. And as soon as the end of the train comes by us, I have us turn around and walk back to the scene of the crime. But I explain to everybody what the plan is. Just do it casual, follow my lead, blah, blah, blah. So we end up walking down into the bowling alley, and all of a sudden, sure enough, police helicopter right overhead, spotlight coming down on us. And it's late, so it's really dark out. But Mark immediately does this, like, hands behind the head, legs spread, like a dumbass. And I end up slapping Mark upside the head. I'm like, you idiot. And I kind of point at the helicopter like, hey, how's it going? Police helicopter. And Mark, I tell him, like, laugh, look up at the helicopter and play it off like you were just being silly. And so he does, and then we start to walk inside the bowling alley. And then some cops show up and stop us, right? And they start talking to us, and, where are you guys coming from? So I take the lead on it, and I say, oh, we were coming from the Riverside Plaza. We're heading home. My dad I live right over here. And he says, you were coming up around the train tracks? And I said, yep. I said, why? What's up? And he says that a group of kids were seen throwing rocks over the train into the parking lot and damaged a bunch of cars. I'm like, oh, you think it was us? And like, that's the idea. And I was like, okay. And so you guys were coming from here, blah, blah, blah. And finally, that's when I go, you know what? We did see some other kids going the other direction. And like, how many of them were there? And we played this off so smooth. I look at Corey, I'm like, how many was that? I couldn't tell. I think with 4 or 5. Corey thinks about it for a few minutes and then says, I think it was 5. And he was like, what do you think, Mark? And Mark's like, I don't know. I was down here screwing around. I never got to see it. It's dark. They were on the other side of the tracks. It could have been 5, 6. I don't know. And we all kind of had that same mentality toward it, but they bought it, and they ended up running off and looking for whoever those imaginary kids were. And so yeah, we got away with that one, so we ended up just going to the bowling alley and doing our thing. There was another night though, we were actually coming from, again, Riverside Plaza, going back to my dad's house, and we were kind of almost getting behind Target now. And all of a sudden, it was just Corey and I. And we started hearing, bzz, bzz, like, what the hell is that? It sounded like bees flying by. And then we started hearing shots. And we started seeing impacts into the ground. We're like, oh, crap. And we started running. Now, we don't know if this was just an isolated incident or if there was something more to it. Through Corey, I had made a few other friends, one of which was a guy by the name of Jason Allen Evans. And Jason was 20 years old, was actually Corey's mom's boy toy, I guess, probably the best way to put it. So she was kind of a cougar. But anyway, he and Corey got along real well. He and I got along real well. He was into some less than reputable things. But he's a cool dude. I loved him to death. And so after a while, people started associating Jason with Corey and myself. And we kind of got on the wrong side of some bad people. And I don't know if it was related to something that happened there. But this did happen. But anyway, so we started getting these things flying by us, and we eventually realized that we're being shot at, right? So we're serpentine running, bobbing and weaving, ducking, diving to the ground, hiding behind rocks. And just as we're running, just more shit's just flying in. Finally, we ended up running down to the Target parking lot. Figured we got to be in a crowd. That's the best way to be safe. So we ended up jumping down to the parking lot and running around. And I think we went into the front door and got into Target, took a breather, walked through Target, and eventually came out the garden section because that's closer to where we had to be. And we come out the garden section, we're like, okay, coast seems clear, let's head to my dad's. And just as we get just about out of the Target parking lot, all of a sudden, cop shows up, lights us up, and turn around, there he is, gun drawn on us. Like, oh god. hands up in the air. Now, we look suspicious as hell because we're wearing black trench coats, hoods, everything, so I don't blame him for stopping us. Anyway, he backs me up. I'm super respectful with him. He puts cuffs on me, cuffs me to his front bumper. And then he goes over to Corey, and Corey decides to be a mouthy dumbass. Gets his legs kicked out from underneath him, and cop ends up hitting Corey upside the head with his radio, which had me dying, by the way, because he deserved that shit. But it was funny as hell. So Corey, bow! And anyway, the cop ended up telling us that, some people were firing guns over here, and, we look suspicious and blah, blah, blah. So he checked us out. Everything was fine. Let us go. But I still remember that cop's name, Officer K.L. Rea. Badge number was 108. So I'll never forget that. And final incident for the video. Literally same area, same train tracks. Corey and I were walking from, again, the Riverside Plaza area. Could have even been the graveyard. I don't know. We'd hang out there sometimes. But we were walking from there, heading towards Bowling Alley, back towards Target. And we're literally just walking on the tracks, and it was probably midnight-ish. There was a full moon. It was behind us and was projecting its light down so that you could see our shadows on the tracks right in front of us. And we're literally just on the tracks, stepping board to board to board to board, and looking at our shadows as we're just talking. And we had, really deep discussion. And it was a quiet night. You couldn't really hear much other than the cars going by on the freeway off to our right. And we're looking down at our shadows, and then all of a sudden our shadows start becoming progressively elongated. And we're like, what the hell's going on? And you see it extending out. We don't hear anything, again, other than the cars on the freeway. But the shadows are growing. Like, why the hell are the shadows growing? I look up at the moon. I look at the shadows. And then Corey and I look at each other. And it was at that moment a light caught our peripheral vision. And I look over my left shoulder. And Corey looks over his right shoulder at that exact moment. And I shit you not, there was a train right there. Like, it was right there. It had to be 10 feet away. Could have been slightly longer, but it was right there. Big, gigantic, bright-ass light shining right in our face. I literally went from here to there, diving off the tracks. Just an instant dive. Train just goes flying by us, freaking hauling ass, right? I'm still in flight. I had literally just left the ground when this thing right by us. And it was going so fast that I could feel the suction from the train try to pull me back into it. And that suction caused an awkward movement of my body to where I ended up falling and landing really weird onto the ground and ended up tumbling down this hill through the rocks and everything else. And, I finally get up because that landing was just so awkward, so it hurt. And I realized what had happened, that, how that suction had got me. So I knew I was close to it. And now my next thought is, shit, Corey's dead. He had to be dead because I barely made it. And so I'm thinking, where the hell's Corey? His bodies could be around here somewhere. And I tried to look for him through the cars, hoping that he was alive, but I didn't see him. So I was convinced he was dead. So I'm trying to find his body, searching for it. Couldn't find anything. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way. Maybe he got shattered because the train going that fast, it's possible he got shattered. So now I'm looking for an arm or a leg or a skull fragments or foot or something. Blood maybe, but it was too dark for me to really tell blood, even though I had the moonlight. Best I was hoping for was maybe a body part, but couldn't find it. Nope, couldn't find it. And so now I'm thinking, okay, his body probably got thrown on the other side of the track. So, I'm convinced Corey's dead. Now I got to go look for his body, call the police, figure out what's going on. And train just takes forever. Eventually, finally, the train passes. I look up, and lo and behold, got Corey staring at me. Yep. Yeah. Anyway, that's the story. Thank you for listening. If you've got any memories of this time frame, please let me know. I appreciate you. Have a good one.